In the last video, we talked about true, false, not given question, which is reportedly the most difficult question type on IELTS reading. In this video, we'll talk about the most time-consuming question on IELTS reading. This video too will consist of 3 parts. We'll begin with a brief overview of matching the headings question type, and we'll then discuss a strategy to find the answers to these questions. Towards the end of the video, we'll also practice some questions. Now for this question type, our reading passage will be divided into different paragraphs, paragraph A, B, C, D, so on and so forth, and we'll be given a list of headings. The number of headings will always be more than the number of paragraphs, so we will not use all of the headings. Some headings may also be done as an example for us. Now, one reason why a lot of students find matching headings question to be time-consuming or most time-consuming could be that they're simply not using the right strategy. A lot of students use the same strategy for their entire reading test. Now, the different question types on a reading test are designed to test different skills or different abilities. Now, while for true, false, not given questions and filling in the blanks or multiple choice questions, the test is designed to test our ability to find specific information and vocabulary, that is meaning of specific individual words. For matching the headings, on the other hand, we are being tested on our ability to understand the idea, the central idea of paragraphs. So of course, the way we approach this question type is also going to be different. The strategy that I discussed in the previous video is good for true, false, not given, yes, no, not given type of questions and filling in the blanks, and also for multiple choice questions. But what we'll do in this video is going to be somewhat opposite to what we discussed in the last video. While for all of those questions, we go from reading questions to reading the passage. For matching the headings, we should first spend some time reading the passage and then move on to the questions. We'll begin by reading the heading of the paragraph just to get a vague idea as to what the passage is about and give a super quick read to the list of headings. This is just to get some insight into what the passage will be about. That's it. Do not focus too much. Don't worry about trying to remember that list of heading because we are going to come back to it later. Now our focus is going to be on reading the passage. Reading the paragraphs only once is not going to be enough. The first read is to guess the central idea of our paragraphs. We'll read it again to determine the correct heading from the list provided. So once you've read all of the paragraph, now come back to the list of headings. Start with paragraph A and go through that entire list of headings and see which is the most suitable heading for this paragraph. See which is the closest to the central idea that you had guessed for this paragraph. Repeat this for all of the other paragraphs as well. The first and the last sentence of a paragraph will only help you make a guess about the central idea. It is very important to quickly skim through the rest of the paragraph to confirm your guess. There are going to be distractors in your headings. These are words that may also appear in the paragraph, making it look like this is the appropriate heading for that particular paragraph. There is also going to be similar headings, that is headings which have almost the same meaning or have similar words, sometimes even the exact same words. But do not spend too much time just trying to determine which out of the two is more suitable for this paragraph. Remember to never get stuck at any question. If you're confused between two headings, write them both against that specific paragraph and move on. because as you go on and try to find answer for the other paragraphs, you may find that one of those two headings is more appropriate for some other paragraph. Headings type of questions is going to have a combination of easy and not so easy questions. Some of the answers are so straightforward that you're able to find those answers the first time you're reading the paragraphs, but there are other paragraphs that will require you to have read them at least 3 times before you're actually able to figure out the correct answer. But always leave those questions for the last. Don't end up wasting so much time on those questions that now you're not even left with enough time to find the answers for the easier questions. Now, some heading or headings could be done as an example. Do not ignore that paragraph just because it is already answered, because that paragraph forms an important link between the paragraph before it and the paragraph right after. So even though the answer is already given, quickly skim through this paragraph as well and use the heading for this paragraph to make a guess about the next paragraph. Like I mentioned before, we find that headings is the most time-consuming question on our reading test. But here's the thing. Once we've found the right answers to our headings type of question, finding the answers to the rest of the questions from this passage not only becomes easier, but it also consumes a lot less time. This is because we're now familiar with what paragraph has which information. In fact, this is why, at least in my opinion, the headings type of questions are usually given before the passage, unlike all of the other questions which come after the reading passage. So I'd say all of the time that we do spend on a headings question is well worth it. All right, so for this last part of the video, we're going to practice a matching headings question type. We'll use an example from a past Cambridge test paper. So a reading passage is titled Robots at Work and has 7 paragraphs from A to G. And there are 9 headings, out of which one is already done as an example. So for paragraph C, the correct heading is number 9. So as paragraph C is already done as an example, which is heading number 9, so we will cross out heading 9. So as to narrow down our options, but we will not totally ignore it. We'll still at least quickly skim through paragraph C to determine the link between paragraph B and D. Okay, so I've read the topic of my passage, which is robots at work. All right, so now I know the text is going to be about robots. I'll very quickly, maybe in like 10 seconds, go through the list of headings. Now, we'll start by reading the first and the last few lines of all of the paragraphs to guess the central idea, and then quickly skim through the entire paragraph to confirm our guess. All right, so we spent about 5 minutes quickly going through all of our paragraphs, not reading in detail, just to kind of determine what the entire passage is about. What are the different paragraphs talking about? Just a rough idea is good enough. And now we'll start with paragraph A and try to check our guess against the list of headings and see which heading seems appropriate for this paragraph. So the starting of the paragraph A says the newspaper production in the old days consisted of various tests which were performed in one building. And these days, these tests are performed at 2 completely different locations. So what I'm getting from this paragraph is split location for newspaper production. This does seem like an appropriate heading, so I will also put this down as a possible answer. Getting the newspaper to the printing center. Now, this is where we need to be wary of distractors. This heading has the term printing center and so does our paragraph. But we need to understand the heading as a whole and not just that single phrase or term. The heading says getting the newspaper to the printing center. And getting the newspaper to the printing center is only one part of the paragraph. It definitely does not communicate the central idea of the paragraph. So look out for distractors like these. You may find words, keywords in a heading that will also be mentioned in a paragraph, but just because it has the same word doesn't make it the suitable heading for the paragraph. So yes, that was a distractor, but I did not let it distract me. Good job, me. Paragraph B starts with, once the finished newspaper has been created for the next morning's edition, all the pages are transmitted electronically from the pre-press center to the printing center. Now the opening sentence is giving me the sense number 7 seems more appropriate for paragraph B. Now, number 7 says getting the newspaper to the printing center, and that's exactly what the starting sentence for the paragraph says. That once the newspaper has been created, the pages are now sent to the printing center. And they also mention how they get these to the printing center, where they say all the pages are transmitted electronically from the pre-press center to the printing center. So yes, it kind of does talk about getting the newspaper to the printing center. So yes, for B, we have number 7 as the most likely answer. Let's now move on to paragraph C. Remember, paragraph C is already done as an example. The answer is beware of robots. Even if some paragraphs are done as examples, do not completely ignore them. So paragraph C starts with a procession of automated vehicles is busy at the new printing center where the Sydney Morning Herald is printed each day. Oh well, also, the term LGV also finally has a mention. So apparently LGVs are the robots that are working at a press, at a printing press in Sydney. And LGV stands for laser guided vehicles. Now you see, this is why even if a paragraph is done as an example, it is important that we still quickly at least skim it once, because if we totally ignore the paragraph, we may end up missing some important detail. Like this paragraph here told us that LGVs stands for laser guided vehicles. So now that LGVs have a mention, we know that 2 headings that have the term LGV in them could be possible headings for the following paragraphs, that is paragraph D, E, F, and G. Let's move on to paragraph D. The robot's principal job, however, is to shift the newsprint, the printing paper that arrives at the plant in huge reels and emerges at the other end sometime later as newspapers. So the opening sentence kind of makes this paragraph look like it's about a robot's job, because here they say what the principal job is. So I think they're talking about, this paragraph is talking about the LGV's main function. So I will put this down as a possible answer for paragraph D, but I will continue to skim the rest of the paragraph to confirm my answer. The paragraph then talks about what else the LGVs do. And then LGVs move busily around the press room, fulfilling their 2 key functions. It again talks about key functions. Key function means the main function. So again, it does confirm that 4 is the correct answer. I hope the strategy we discussed in this video will help you immensely with your matching headings type of questions. If you like the video, please share and like it, and also leave a comment if you have any questions about matching headings question. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Take care.